Hey, welcome. I'm Jeremy. I'm the founder of Castory. We are open sourcing a product called Naas.ai. Naas is a notebook as a service engine. So we are very happy to host this show today with Carlos. He's an amazing researcher and he has been working on different topics that are very interesting to us. So let's get started.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's an honor to be here and to present some of the work that I have been conducting as a research assistant at West Virginia University. And yeah, basically the topic of today is about, well, my main topic of research is the future of work. And today in specific, I'll talk about this AI in the workplace. So from the perspective of human-centered design. So basically understanding how can we build solutions based on AI tools, so we can give this approach for human-centered design. So just a quick introduction about myself. So, well, I started with this like 20 years ago in developing tools and starting with some AI at that moment. It were only symbolic approaches and rule-based approaches and expert systems at that time. And well, I started with this and doing some automation at the beginning. So I started from grad school. I started building, well, I built two companies at that time. I was very young. I had my studies and I had my companies. It was very difficult to manage everything together. But well, I started with that. I started with an automation company in which we automated part of the pipelines of the workflows of some companies, like using PCAs, using some devices that interconnect with machines, and we got the data from the machines and we process it to analyze some patterns in data, and very basic patterns, but at that time we did a lot of work with that. Then I started a company that was a parking machine factory. So we build a lot of devices for parking lots. So from different type of sensors, different type of machines for that interconnect between them. And at that moment, we detected that there were some parts that well, of course, it is automation, but some of the components or some of the parts of the process had to have some pattern recognition. So if something has a fail or is prompted to have failures, we can detect in advance, because some parts of the signals in the sensors we can detect if anything was failing or will be prompt to fail. So we developed a lot of things for detecting patterns in the automation machines that we had in the parking lots. And also detecting frauds, because sometimes, well, I'm from Mexico originally, and well, in some of the parking lots, like people just let others just enter without paying, and some of the parking owners in the parking lots detected that they were having some losses in the parking. So we detected that some of the employees were doing some tricks, and we detected some patterns in the data just to detect those cases. So I think it was a great work, and it was very, very, very exciting working in automation and using these pattern recognition AI techniques that were at that moment mostly rule-based and mostly automatas and automatons. Basically, well, it was my start, right? Then I finished my my grad school finally, and it was very, very hard, like managing everything together at that time. So yeah, dealing with having a business and making it profitable and having your employees and paying your employees, it's a hard work. So basically at that time I was tired of trying to make that work. So well, I had also partners. So I moved to the other world, to other type of work that was international diplomacy. So I went to United Nations, and it was a total change. So I moved to
big change.
It was a super big change. Yeah, so at that time, I worked for different agencies for UNESCO, UNICEF, and United Nations Development Program. I was in the IT team, so I was still involved in IT, but yes, for other type of problem, right? But I also did a lot of automation there for all the data load process and everything for detecting some errors in data and detecting some data that requires some standardization. So, well, I also applied AI there, but it was more limited, like in the past. And well, of course, then I started a master and I studied an MBA in Spain, and then well, I worked for some companies. I started working for, well, then I moved to Google. I worked for Google for 2 years, and it was fun. I was in Google for education and implementing a lot of solutions there. It was a great experience there. And then I decided to continue in the entrepreneurship world. So I founded other two companies. One, it's related to payments. So basically, it was a payment gateway. And what was very interesting at that time, it's a lot of automation doing payments, because you have to synchronize the systems of the banks, to synchronize the systems of the stores, because we did offline payments. So you go to the store, you pay in the store, and we process the payment from there. And I also had the opportunity to implement a lot of AI there for fraud detection, because there are a lot of frauds that are common in online shopping. And well, you have to comply with certain standards in order to be a payment gateway. So
you were a payment gateway, Carlos.
Yeah,
Sorry, you were a payment gateway, but you were making offline payments. So it's interesting, right?
Yes, we were an offline payment gateway.
Interesting.
So in order to achieve that, as I mentioned, there is a lot of automation there, because some of the things at that time were manual. So we had, as humans, to do processes, to enter into websites, doing some movements. There were a lot of work manual. So we did a lot of automation there, and yeah, it was super exciting experience.
So you started manually and then you automated it.
Yes. So it was very fun, because at the beginning we had these cameras watching a mobile phone and just waiting for not a mobile phone, a token, and waiting to a new token appears in the screen of the token, and then with character recognition from the image, we transcribe and we feed another system with that token, and we automated the bank systems for doing all the transactions at the beginning, from the MVP and the early start. After that, we went with the companies and with the banks, and we did some allies. So we started working together with the banks and all the things. But in the beginning, most of the thing was very interesting how we automated everything. So, cool. So that was a fun experience. And well, I was in that project, and also in some educational platforms for the industry 4.0. And yes, I have worked in that. And after that, I moved to academia. So I started my PhD. I started doing some research projects more related to how AI can be implemented in a workplace, and how you can measure the satisfaction, the well-being of the users, and of course, you can help them to improve their wages. And yeah, there are a lot of perks that you have while having AI tools in your workplace. So basically, that is the work that I have been doing the last years. And well, during the summers, I have worked in some other companies like Microsoft, like Amazon, like Snapchat. and it has been a great experience working in all these places and well, implementing AI and in different approaches and different environments, and let's see how people can be benefited from the AI tools in their workplace. So, okay, that is, I mentioned that it will be a brief introduction, but it was a long one. So let's
But it's
go.
interesting. It's about you experiencing automation, manual stuff, then automation, then AI, then research, basically.
That's right. That's correct.
Interesting.
So in order to do that, like having really having an impact while implementing those tools, those AI techniques in the workplace, what I focused more was in this human-computer interaction area. That it's a multidisciplinary field. So it's HCI. It's very broad. So it involves computer science, it involves ergonomics, engineering, design, some sociology. Well, not some, a lot of sociology in order to understand how people interact, ethnology, just to see how different demographics interact with certain type of tools, cognitive science, psychology, information security, and many others, right? So basically, I entered in this field because I wanted not only to have an algorithm that has a 95% of accuracy, but a solution that can really help people. So how can I implement technology that people can value, can give a that can improve their lives, right? So basically, ACI has a lot of methodologies for studying that. And in a specific, one of the methodologies that I use is human-centered design. Human-centered design is not it's not starting from the cool part. It's starting from understanding people, right? Because from my side, that I am technical, I really want to start. Hey, I can use this algorithm now, or I can use this transformer with this type of architecture, and I can improve it in this way, right? But when you start from human-centered design, you are not starting from the technical solution. You start from understanding where are the user needs. But it is also interesting because you need data in order to understand that. Because you can, of course, observe people, but if you have one individual, you can get some insights, but it might not be representative for a population, right? So if you have enough number and a statistical significant number of people in which you can start measuring their experience, how they use the tool, you can track the logs, you can do a lot of things in order to understand how they are experiencing the tool. So basically, you can do quantitative analysis, of course, tracking all the signals from the interfaces, all the telemetry from interfaces. But you can also have this qualitative tool, so research tools. So basically, you can ask people for their experience using a platform, or you can give surveys, and you can have focus groups, and you can have many ways in which you can get what people expected, what they had, or what they really want, or what are their problems. So you need first to understand what are the user needs in order to develop a tool or to develop a solution. So yeah, of course, ethnography studies are important because you have to segment what are the type of populations you want to explore, to who you want to focus or to deliver your product. So well, there are a lot of things that you have a study, you can study, but having data is very important, and using some statistical tools or also AI. You know, if you have lot of data, you can understand patterns from data. Then you can design from their needs. So you can do some usability testing, of course, prototyping, having different versions of what you think it will help, and of course, co-creation. So while you are exploring with users, you are not only getting good or bad in terms of feedback. You can say, hey, how would you improve it? Do you add would you add some specific tools, some specific features for improving your work? So basically, it's doing this co-creation, prototyping process. And lastly, last but not least, is this engagement with the community. So once you are delivering your product and it's having an impact, it's as we are doing now. We are generating a community. We are improving everyone. We are well, yeah, we as community, we are improving the tools, the services with our feedback, with the experience, with creating content, with adding, with pushing commits to the repository. There are many ways, right? Of course, creating awareness, giving access people, like in this case, like as an open source, right? You can allow others to improve the tools or to improve the experience, right?
So from the feedback, you get patterns, and these patterns are integrated back to whatever technical thing you build.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that way. And of course, yeah, that's having this messaging, communication, all the communication channels in which you can, engage with the community and to understand what they need. And basically, it's a cycle, as we see here. So
exactly, it's non-linear. It's nothing linear. It's like always a cycle and doing a loop of learning, iterating, building, and yeah, I get it.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so basically, there is the approach that it's most of the HCI work is driven. Of course, nowadays this is more common, and we see it in many companies. But back in days, it was not that common because you wanted to have a solution for a problem in the way that you envision it, but the access to different background people from different backgrounds was difficult at that time. Right now, we have all the tools. We have some platforms in which we can engage with the community, different communities. And for instance, my main one of my main areas of study is crowdsourcing. So how do you involve people from different places that can work in microtasks and help you? For instance, conducting surveys. You can right now conduct surveys for multiple people from different backgrounds. So using this platform where there are a lot of people that work doing microtasks. So right now we have the tools, and this is why we can nowadays use this human-centric design. It's easier for doing that than in the past.
Okay, interesting.
So now it comes this question, like going for instance, for people that are more related to this AI field. So are we really focused on the accuracy for our algorithms, or should we really focus more in the well-being of the user, right? So basically, it's this approach, like going through everything algorithmic, just feeding with data, with knowledge, with information, tracking every signal it comes, using every area from science, from mathematics, from technology for solving a problem, or going into the other way, right? Like understanding motivations, understanding what are the unsaid things that people are experiencing while using a platform, or what are their problems that they do not externalize, right? How can we get that feeling from users? If focusing more in this humanity part, creativity, intuition, understanding others, engaging in what the people matters, and focusing in these emotions, meaning relationships, right? So basically, it's part of both, right? If we want to have a technical, strong solution, of course, we can to rely on maths, but while defining what will be the solution, we have to rely on what we learn from users, rely from this intuition, from the emotions that it will generate, the reactions, and of course motivation, right? It's a balance. It's not that the algorithm performance it's all that we need for a solution. We have to understand in which part of the user process the AI enters and gives a value, that promotes well-being.
Yeah, definitely.
So
It's not about the algorithm only, it's about the humans and the unsaid data, the unsaid information.
exactly. Yeah. That's very, very, very important. Yeah. Well, for me, that I am more a technical guy that entered in this sociological topic. It was a big change for me. Like not planning.
Was it brought to you by the reality, or did you? How did you go from this place where you were a technical guy, wanted to implement algorithm, to like I need to get this other part of the deal, right? Did you? Was it forced or was it an intention?
Well, I think it was part of my formation, of my preparation doing the PhD. I started trying to solve everything from the technological point of view. But when I started in this field, human-computer interaction, my advisor and everyone said, "Okay, what are the main motivations? Why are you doing this?" And at that moment, I realized, well, if I really want to measure that something is working, it's not only working in terms of accuracy and algorithm. It
Okay.
should be working in terms of
Okay.
our result in the giving something that could be helpful for the human. So yeah, I think it was something that I had to learn while exploring this area.
Excellent. Excellent. It's very interesting.
So this is like the human-centered AI canvas. When we try to do these AI solutions and really implementing in a human-centered framework, so of course we have to have something done with these tools that we are implementing. So of course the AI has a promise. So you can improve the efficiency in n number of percent or something like that, right? But yeah, there's a lot of promises that AI can do, but we have to have a balance between what machines do better and what humans do better, and how we can envision a collaboration between both. Because using AI as a tool is not enough. It's AI. It's something that can help us, of course, as a tool, but also as a collaborator. We have to see the AI not only as a tool, but also as a collaborator. If it is a collaborator, how we can learn from the AI. For instance, how can we do this human reinforcement, right? Because in machine learning, we have this approach that is called reinforcement learning, in which the machine improves every time it is encountered to a new situation. But how, as humans, as we interact with the AI, how can we reinforce us? How can we have this reinforcement in our skills, in our daily lives, in our basically how we can perform better, and not only perform, how can we save time a day because we have a collaborator, right? So there are a lot of things that we have to focus also on the benefits of humans. It's not only productivity, it's also well-being. It's also more time for us in return. The other is promoting more critical thinking for humans instead of doing mechanical things. Of course, taking into account the biases that the algorithms have, and we can inject these biases if we don't do good work. I think with Dennis, we did he did a great work in the Explainable AI book he wrote about how can we do explainable AI algorithms in order to understand what the algorithm is learning from data, how we can how we will be injecting some biases into data. So yeah, I think that is an interesting approach
Yeah,
that
Dennis
Dennis.
is writing in the comment as we speak. Like he said, like you were actually talking about human reinforcement learning. Like it's like
Yeah.
how does human can be reinforcement learning? Yeah,
Yeah,
Dennis is.
that's super interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, of course, there are a lot of considerations, implications in this, and there's another part. This change management. Of course, we as humans, it's difficult for us to change. Why? Because in order to survive, we have to adapt to certain routines that keep us alive. But if there is a change in our routine, it's difficult for us because it breaks the stability of our comfort zone. So introducing an AI that it's a collaborator with the one that you cannot chat, or well, if it has a chatbot interface, maybe you can chat. You can chat with the AI tool, but it won't feel like as a human, right? So there are differences in interaction with AI than with humans. So we have to do all the process to do that adaptation for the humans that use these tools. I will explain a little bit more about this stuff, this point in a specific.
Perfect.
This is an example of this intervention strategies, because you start with this AI tool in which you are doing an intervention, and you are basically improving some process using this AI, and the AI gives you some results, some confidence, right? So I am 95% confident of this response, or I am 50% confident. It's basically a flip coin, right? So basically, if you have high confidence, you can, as the first example, you can just say, hey, Alexa, play Coldplay and play music. Just go straight ahead. It's doing whatever you want. The AI was told to do. Then we have this medium confidence, right? So basically, if you don't really have the confidence, your algorithm said that the confidence is low, you can have a mitigation strategy, asking again to the user, or getting some more feedback from the users. Or if you really have a low confidence in your AI algorithm, you can say, oh, I didn't understand. Just can you repeat it? Or if you repeat it 3 times, you won't say, please repeat again. So you will say, try later, or something like that, right? So how do you really have these mitigation strategies for improving the user experience? Because if you all the time are giving the last response, and you won't continue using it. So I think there are a lot of things that have to be considered once you are building these AI tools. Just in order to illustrate and give more examples about my current work in this space and some use cases I have studied, I will go through some of them. I will just give some punchlines, just to don't take much time explaining. But
so maybe we can go back after you give some punchline on the different use case. We can go back on different topics if there is any question to go further, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, if you want, I can just continue, and yeah, as we have some questions or comments, we can go.
Yeah, guys, feel free to put the comments in the comments. Feel free to put your questions, and we can go with the flow and get all the use case Carlos wants to present us, and then we can go back on those. Okay.
Sounds good. So in the first part, we experience like, hey, there are expert workers and we have novice workers. The context here is online work. In online work, there are some platforms that are crowdsourcing platforms in which the workers perform very short tasks. There are micro tasks. So some examples are image labeling. So is there a cat in the image? Is there a dog in the image? Another example is text labeling. So basically, if this text relates to this topic or to this topic, another is audio transcription. There are a lot of tasks that are short, right? So basically, these workers are called crowd workers. So they're expert workers that they have been working on these platforms for years, and they earn a good wage. And we have these novice workers that they are starting using the platform, and it is difficult for them to start earning good wage. So how can we balance, like the novice workers can start earning more? Because if you start earning less than your minimum wage, you will be demotivated very fast. You won't be motivated while working. So what we did is we understood the patterns of expert workers. We do this reinforcement learning approach, and from the patterns we detected, and we have an yeah we were having different, well, we were detecting which were the patterns of expert users who earn a good wage, and then we shared some of the practices they follow, like how do they choose some of the tasks they do, and we shared these practices with novice workers. What we detected is that if we did it in a data-driven approach, we really identified like what were their secret sauce, right? How they really worked. But if we only asked to the expert workers, they didn't really disclose or reveal part of their techniques. They just give us some clues of what they do in order to earn more, but they didn't disclose what they really do. So this is interesting because it's a way of mediating human communication. So we can, instead of asking directly people for disclosing what they do, you can learn from their behavior and you can share what a machine can learn to others. So it is an interesting approach from the human point of view, how you can really learn from tracking the user actions, worker actions. Another example is doing some data curation, some uh, um, uh, so detecting where when we have unfair reviews from the feedback that workers receive. For instance, in Uber, if you are a Uber driver and you got a bad review because of the traffic, that is not your fault. So basically, that is an unfair review because it's against of the policies of review of giving feedback to workers. So what we did at that moment is we train an AI agent to detect when a comment, a feedback was unfair, and we prompted to the requester just to revise their feedback. So this was very interesting because the value of this work was not only having a super well trained with transformer models for detecting unfair reviews from a feedback, because it was very interesting in terms of the technical point of view. But how do we really convince requesters to revise their feedback, to review that they can switch to a fairer review, right? So basically, it was a very interesting research in understanding the motivations of requesters while giving a feedback. And if they are prompted, and if the AI is saying, "Hey, please revise your feedback," if they were willing or not to revise it. So it was a very interesting, and one interesting part is that all the process was done in a notebook, right? And basically all the processes, instead of having a lot of Python code files with code, I only have this one file with all the benchmarks and all the techniques and all the transformers and everything else. So what I wanted to say is that, for instance, it also helps like other researchers. For instance, in my area that it's human-computer interaction, some of the people are sociologists or psychologists. So for them, it's very difficult to conduct this automatic analysis using AI, right? So basically sharing these tools with the researchers, it is also beneficial, right? So, and this is related to Naas, to the platform. So
yeah, notebooks as a
no,
medium of putting people together, like putting technicals and non-technicals.
yeah, that's correct. Well, I just talk briefly about the other use cases because I think we are almost on time in this first half of
Yeah, it's
the
fine. It's fine.
conversation.
Yeah.
So the other part is understanding how to improve the wages of workers. So as I mentioned, when you work on these platforms, crowdsourcing, one example is Amazon Mechanical Turk. In Amazon Mechanical Turk, you sign up as a worker and you start doing this data labeling tasks, and you get some money from it. So we can say we can see from here from different uh, people demographics how they earn, right? For
Okay.
different segments. For instance, from India, people in average they get an $4 per hour, right? In Brazil, they got 1.9, etc. Basically, it's a analysis that I did in my previous research, and after that, we started building tools for each demographic group. So it understanding what are the patterns of each demographic groups, the ones that earns the most and the ones that earns the lowest, and then suggesting some recommendations for users using AI. So it was a very interesting experiment. This is a still ongoing work because part of the recommender evaluations are still in process, are running some of the experiments, but we are studying how people react to some recommendations, because some people prefer some type of work, and if you are recommending other type of work that it's targeted to demographic, of course you have to evolve as with the user preferences. So we are studying these fixed approaches, these approaches that evolve. So it's a very interesting work,
It
but
reminds me
it's
of
focused.
sorry, yeah, go ahead. It reminds me of a cultural aspect of integrating AI into the, the cultural dimension of the country. We talked about it with Dennis. He said like integrating culture into the algorithm might be one of the best way to get it accurate.
That's right. That's correct, and that's what we are doing in this work, integrating all that cultural aspects and demographic aspects into account in the algorithm. So once I have the final results and the paper published, I will share it with the community. But yeah,
Excellent.
it's still ongoing work. But yeah, we have more than the half of the work done. Other experiment is basically how can we scale experts. So for instance, finding experts on internet is very difficult. Well, not only on internet, like experts in general, it's difficult because they are scarce. And basically, this scarcity of experts is normal because of the different concentration of knowledge of different people, right? So how do we contact experts and ask them to help you in some way? For instance, providing feedback. You have an image and you want that an expert in design can give you some feedback, and you can get the feedback back. So basically, it was a lot of automation. So we developed a LinkedIn bot at that moment. I think, well, the bot detected who were the experts that were more suitable to help you, depending on the information that they had in their profile. Then we had a chatbot that contacted them and asked them to participate, giving some feedback as volunteers. And part of the motivation was, hey, imagine that when you were studying, someone asked you for advice, and if you have the opportunity to give advice to novice students, would you, well, novice workers or students, would you like to help? And yeah, some of the people worked only for volunteering. But doing all the automation process was interesting. Doing all the AI for building the chatbots was interesting. But I think the most interesting part here was understanding motivations of people and how experts can different motivations that non-experts, and how yeah, basically how do you approach to people from different backgrounds. So it was a lot of learning here, and using chatbots for that. As I mentioned, it was not only the AI, the technical aspect, is how do you approach to people.
Yeah, the human.
And the human, well, I think there are only two more use cases. I will try to to be brief with those. This one is basically how do you power like knowledge workers, like researchers or any other knowledge workers like news writers and many others. So for instance, in this one, as you are typing, this is like your personal Google. It goes to Google, it finds some sites that are relevant to your work, and it lists them here and help you citing part of your work. So basically, it gives you more related data, related sources to the data that to the part of the work that you are writing on. So we understood from here, so how people wanted to be helped in terms of providing the right information in the right place. And we had some information, some visualization, what type of visualizations they prefer. We did this 2D visualization, 3D visualizations, and we also did a virtual reality visualization. It was very interesting because they enjoyed it a lot, but it was very difficult to get the information from VR and putting in your document, right? But yeah, there were some experiments we performed as we can gather relevant information and present in different formats. And as I mentioned before, some other tools, I always create notebooks for sharing for my community, so my community can execute some tasks without domain knowledge. For instance, in this project, it's a video action recognition. So imagine that you have videos with people running and with people walking. So you can put in different folders these videos, and it can learn from videos the actions that are happening, and it can predict from unseen videos. So, well, as I mentioned, and Jeremy mentioned, notebooks are a very, very powerful tool for sharing with technical and non-technical people. And well, this is the last.
This is my preferred one. I love this one. Yeah, the creativity aspect with the music and all. It's excellent.
Oh, yeah, this. Well, just to be honest, I do this in my spare time, in my free time, because yeah, my main work is kind of different, but I really like to integrate music and video with AI tools. So basically, this is Home to Song. It's a tool that I developed while during my PhD, and basically you hum a song. So you say la 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 la, then it transcribes the songs into the notes, and then it detects what is the most well, what is the genre or most related genre to the melody that you sung, and then it creates all the stems, all the other notes from the other instruments. So it creates batteries, it creates piano, it creates bass, it creates all the instruments, and it creates a song, a whole song for you from a home. So it is very interesting. It's online. You can test it, and basically it's basically how we can generate generate music, but how you can help creative people for reducing the work in, for instance, some of the stems you can just take them and use them, and some of them you can tweak them, or it can help you also for inspiring your work. The other was Autom Editor. Basically, it's an automatic video editor. You add a video, it reduces all the errors that you had, all the bloopers, and all the white spaces, all the spaces with the silence.
Yeah, we talked about it.
And it creates only a revise, and also if you had an error in certain part and you repeat it, it deletes the first part that you repeat that content. So yeah, it was a very interesting project, and it was also I did it during my PhD. I think it will be also a very powerful productive tool, a business tool. So let's see if what goes from here. The other one was a 3D music audio. So basically, you provide us an input, a YouTube video, it decomposes the instruments from the audio and put it in different places in a room, and you hear in 3D all the instruments sounding
I've
from
tried
different.
this one, and I think it's pretty amazing, because I always loved with my father, we like music, and we like to like differentiate the music on the song, like what is this instrument, what is this instrument. So I tried it, and I found it really amazing what it can do, because it's basically just a YouTube file. It's a basic MP3, and it can get how the different instruments go together, and how to separate them. So I think it's pretty powerful as well. AI
Yeah,
and creativity is definitely a big topic also.
and something that I was discussing with Jeremy is to port it to NAS, because I everything was automation from notebooks. So at that moment, I did the ng-rock automation. I created the web servers into Colab. It was a lot of work because it was handmade and very tricky, very hacky. So I think with NAS, it will be super easy just to port it. So
Yeah,
it's part of the ongoing work I have with Journey, just to
cool.
have this working as a good
We have some
use case.
question, Carlos. Maybe, yeah, you want to finish on this, and we can go to some very interesting questions in the comments. Maybe you wanted to
Sure.
finish with one thing.
Yeah, it's only one
Yeah, it's all
last
about
slide.
automation in the end.
Yeah, it's automation at the end. So basically, automation is good. For my experience, automation is generating a lot of jobs. Since I study crowdsourcing, the number of jobs that has been generating lastly in the last years has been a lot. Of course, these were low skills, but there has been a lot of high skills jobs that has been generated. So automation using AI is good not only for jobs but many things. As we see, some of the jobs like bookkeeping, of course, this type of less decision-making jobs were reduced, but some others that require some analysis, that require some judgment, the ones that were really enhanced in terms of numbers.
This graph is excellent. It's so powerful. Like the question I was about to ask you is the one, I guess it was from Indratej, who was saying, you can just go back on this slide, because it's perfectly answering the question maybe. So he
Mhm.
said, like, what do you say of people who fears that AI will replace people in the workspace? So this graph shows a lot already. Like,
Yeah, I think we are good for taking decisions, right? And if and we will be good. We will, yeah, we will be keeping good as for keeping for taking decisions. So all our judgment is the one that is very difficult to be replaced. And I think this graph it's very illustrative. This how this repetitive work was really reduced, and because it's boring to do this repetitive work, and just giving some analysis on the work, on the some decision making in the process, it's what it's promoted, and it is what we are seeing right now. More, some of the tools are doing some of the repetitive work, so we have to so now we only have to analyze and take decisions.
yeah, so in the work, when it comes to the workplace, as you said, like it's AI will help get to a point where people will be more focused on decision making and good decision making, versus before
Mhm.
they were mainly focused on repetitive tasks, and not having the ability to get zoom out and take the decisions. So is it
Mhm.
what is it about in the end? Like automation will
Yeah,
bring more data, more quality of data to the AI that will enable better decision making. So we don't have to fear about the AI. Again, it's the
that's correct. Yeah, and we have seen during the other industrial revolutions, there were a lot of different jobs that emerged. So yeah, I think we will be in this fourth industrial revolutions. We are in the same case, so we won't. We don't need to
yeah.
be afraid.
Yeah, but how do you feel like for those people who are not mostly skilled, and that don't have the technical skills? what can you say to those people? Like, how could you, like, what could you suggest?
Yeah, I think digital literacy will be a game-changing approach, because if you are if you don't have the basic digital skills, of course the offline work will be as it has been during the last years and during our life. Offline work is needed, because what happens if we go to the supermarket and there is no one attending or pouring the items in the shelves. So of course the offline work is still needed. But in terms of digital literacy, there will be a lot of new work that requires new skills, but at least the basic skills. So one of the points that it's important related to that, it's the basic digital competences that were promoted by the UNESCO. If you see to the basic digital skills from UNESCO, you will see how UNESCO is trying to push in most of the countries from the UN some plans for the development of countries in terms of digital literacy, but because right now it is a must. And UN is pushing all the countries to promote digital literacy, and this is why they are creating the guidelines for the countries to have at least a minimum of digital literacy.
So
but of course,
digital and data literacy, basically how to read, communicate, be confident with data.
Well, it's more digital literacy. Having the minimum skills for using a computer, for instance. But I think mobile phones are doing the job, because mobile phones are having a good penetration in the market, and people are comfortable using it. And going from mobile phones to computers, it's easier than from nothing to a computer.
Okay, I get your point. Okay, that's very interesting. I guess there was some other questions from Dennis. Your Hum2Song repository, is it on GitHub? Can we find it?
Yeah, it is on GitHub.
Cool. So definitely something we must check out if you want to go into the song tool that Carlos showed us.
I forgot to put my GitHub account here, but it's only Toxtli, my last name. And you can also find it in my website.
Okay, excellent. And what other question? Do you guys have any other questions? Time is flying as usual, but it's very interesting to see how you, as a researcher, Carlos, you have been thinking and going from that place where you were actually just trying to solve problems. You figured out that automation was important. Then you figured out that AI was helping go further into the automation. Then you realized that humans need to be integrated into that thing if you want to make it really good use of it and have a real impact. And I think this whole journey is talking to me, obviously, but I hope it's talking to a lot of people as well. I know that Stefan is also a teacher in the university, for example, and he is working with the students. So I think a lot of things are moving in that area, and that people are going to put more efforts into teaching how to manipulate data, how to use languages to get the data. So are you writing everything into Python, or do you use any other language?
Python mostly.
Python is why Python then?
Well, I use JavaScript from all the front end and HTML, React, all these technologies, but Python in the backend because it's very easy to use. It's for other scientists. It's very easy just to share the code and they take it from it. And I think it was I think it saves a lot of lines of code writing in Python.
Okay, that's interesting. Maybe one last question is like, if we want to implement AI in the workplace, where should we start? I think we have the answer already from your talk, but I want you to maybe say it again. Like, where should we start if we want to implement AI in your workplace?
Yeah, I won't say productivity. I will say user experience. Because if I will say productivity, of course, we can be more productive if we are, for instance, if we take a look to the computer every 30 minutes to get the response from the AI and continue working, it will be productive, but it won't be the approach that humans want. Maybe they just want to have the summarized results at the end of the day and they can just work 1 hour, right? So we can focus in the experience of the user, how they want to get the responses, how they want to interact with the platform, how often they want it, how when they want to be alerted or prompted, when not. I think there are a lot of things to consider in the process, in the workflow. So it's not only accuracy, it's not only productivity, it's also the experience of the user. And if you are understanding how the user works, what the times the user wants to invest on every type of task, you will get the productivity you want at the end.